Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another episode of Hard to Guard TV, and I have one of the hardest working woman in New York City, a friend, someone I look at as a superhero, author, co-founder. She's a philanthropist. She's everything. Nicole Russell. What's up, Nicole? How you feel?
That was some introduction. Thank you.
I'm
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good today. How are you?
I'm good. So we go back, years at the Garden, and you're someone I've always looked up to, and we met working. We were colleagues. You worked downstairs, I worked upstairs, and the reason we got to know each other is through Chris Jean, is because he was telling me about all the great things that you started doing with Precious Dreams Foundation. And you're the co-founder with your mom. Precious Dreams Foundation is a not-for-profit company that comforts kids, and also now you also work with homeless people too.
So we work with young children and young adults that are in foster care and homeless shelters. So we've been working with the homeless population for quite some time.
So you started in 2012. Why? Why did you start Precious Dreams?
There were many reasons. The biggest one for me is I am a super empath, and when I hear that someone is in trouble, someone is in need, I immediately put myself in their shoes and want to find a solution. I've always been that way. And I have a little sister who came to live with my mom when she was 4. And my sister didn't have any comfort items. She suffered from nightmares 7 nights a week, and she didn't know anything about self-comforting or using coping tools to calm down or to even just get herself back to sleep. And while that was happening and we were trying to make her transition easier, I just started thinking about all the other kids in foster care who don't have placement, who, might be living in a group setting or a group home, and there isn't a parent to run to in the next room. And I just was like, how are they getting back to sleep? What are they sleeping in? Are they sleeping in pajamas? What coping tools are they being given when they're removed from the home? And so immediately I just got online and I was searching for nonprofits that focused on bedtime comfort tools. And, I found one org that did pajamas, and then I found another org that donated books, but no one was doing like a full care package or a welcome package for kids who were coming into the system who were just removed from the home. So obviously there's fear, there's anxiety, there's uncertainty. They have no idea what's going to happen to them, but then they're forced to sleep in this new place. So I wanted to just create some type of care package to assist those children. And it went from being a passion project to then becoming something where we're serving nationally now. And we also work with kids in homeless shelters. So it started with the need and just me realizing that nobody was really finding a solve for it. So I just did what I could.
Did you realize this would be your calling? Because before that, you was a professional dancer. You danced with Usher, you danced with Neo. You was a manager in the Times Square bar, and you was trying to become a part owner of the bar. And did you realize like where you would take Precious Dreams, like as it became like a, like you said, it was a passion project that turned into now you're national. Now you're national, and you have chapters all, in parts of the country.
No. So to answer that question, no. I didn't know that this was going to be my calling. But, I'm from New York. You're from New York. You just know that, like, we're hustlers. So if there's something we want to do, we just do it, without even thinking twice. With all of the things that I was doing, I was just passionate. I was passionate about dancing. So I was like, I'm going to go dance. I'm going to go to this audition. I'm going to try to get signed to an agency. I want to dance right now. And so that's what I'm going to do. And at the same time, when you're in entertainment, those checks are sometimes inconsistent. So I was like, all right, well, if I want to dedicate my time to this, I've got to bring in some additional income. So then I started working in hospitality, and I really was just kind of doing what I wanted and what I was passionate about. But I always knew that ultimately I wanted to help children. And so even when I was dancing, I was teaching classes to young kids. And my dance career ended because I had an injury. I messed up both of my knees. I got a condition called chondromalacia of the patella because I was teaching a routine to children in Connecticut. I was taking the train every day to Connecticut to teach these little kids. And I had all the kids wearing knee pads, but I wasn't. And so I was on the floor doing this routine every day, and I had messed up the cartilage so bad in both of my knees that one morning I woke up and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't dance, and I could barely move for like 2 months. And so that was really difficult for me because I was like, I thought dance was my calling, just what am I supposed to be doing? So when everything happened with the nonprofit, I just knew that I was passionate about it. I was passionate about it, and I didn't have, I didn't start this organization with this goal to serve nationally and make this my full-time work. There were so many signs. Even in the first year, there were so many signs of God telling me that this is what you are supposed to be doing. Keep going, keep going. And I think we all get those signs when it's something that is meant for us, even when it is so challenging. We'll see those keep going signs, and that just lets you know you're right on path of where you're supposed to be. So,
can you tell me in your first year what was some of the challenges, and what were the signs that you knew that I want to pursue this even more?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges I think was putting together, a group of board members that were not just friends and family, because I think when most people want to start a nonprofit, you have to have at least 3 or 4 board members in order to fill out the application. And I wanted to bring people on board that had some type of business development experience or had networks that they could support the organization with. And it was really challenging in the beginning, trying to sell people on this idea of something that I had no experience in doing and I was just passionate about. So I did, like many people, start the nonprofit with like my best friend, Ro James, who was like not interested, didn't come to board meetings, but he was like, just let me know what you need. And then there were like 2 other friends who were passionate about it, but had no experience running nonprofits. So it was a huge learning curve, and, on Google every single day, talking to whoever would take my questions and like just doing crazy research to figure out how to do it all. Because in the beginning, unless you have a team, you have to do it all. And of course, we're a nonprofit looking to raise funds, so I couldn't hire staff. So the first year was the most challenging year in going from not having nonprofit experience to then learning how to run a nonprofit, do the marketing, do the accounting, apply for grants, do the grant research. There's just so many jobs. So that was the biggest challenge. And then what was the second part of the question?
I was saying the persistence, what made you, you knew that you wanted to follow, continue to pursue this and build Precious Dreams.
So I received recognition for the work that we were doing from Glamour magazine. Like 6 months into starting the nonprofit, I got an email saying that I was selected as their Hero of the Year. And I thought it was spam. I read the email like 3 times, and I was like, this has to be a joke. We haven't even been operating for a full year. But it was real. And that was like the first moment for me where I was like, wow, this is something that other people are taking notice of. And this is something that's obviously going to grow with the attention that Glamour is going to give us. So what do I want to do with that? And then I think that was around the time where I was like, okay, we got to upgrade the website. We got to figure out what's next, what we want to
When
do.
you say we, it's me.
No, I always say we because a lot of people see me and they think like I run Precious Dreams, and it is such a big team. Like we have a board of 11 incredible members. We have a junior board. We have
You built
chapter
it.
leads. We have ambassadors. There's so many people that run this nonprofit today that I'm so grateful to work with. So even though I will always be the co-founder, like I am not Precious Dreams. I'm always working with a group of people because I cannot do everything on my own.
So can you talk about like in your first year, like you was learning everything on your own. Who was the first person that like take you under their wing and you can learn more about not-for-profit business and some of the things that you know today?
Probably the person that I still look up to. Do you know Erica Ford?
Yeah, I know the name.
So Erica Ford is the founder of Peace is a Lifestyle. And I call her the Beyonce of philanthropy. And it has nothing to do with like glamour or talent. It's honestly because she is the hardest working woman in the nonprofit sector that I know of. And so in the early stages of me starting to consider starting a nonprofit, I thought of Erica Ford. She was one of the very few nonprofit founders back then in 2011, 2012. Who was really like moving through the community and making decisions and pushing policies. And she was just such a boss. And I like admired that about her. So I started volunteering for her and then asking questions whenever I could. And I just was such a big fan of her movement and what she was doing to change lives. So even to this day, I still like follow all of her stuff. I'm a huge fan of Erica Ford.
So one of the things, so all the kids that you deal with, can you talk about the impact they've made on your life and how much it drives you to make Precious Dreams one of the best not-for-profits in this country?
Yeah. So the kids that we work with have completely changed my life. I mean, I have been inspired by them in so many ways. I was inspired by them to write my first book back in 2018.
Everything a pandemic can't fix. We're gonna get to that.
Yes. I was inspired by them this year to release the journal. I am constantly thinking of ways to support them, even outside of Precious Dreams. So I feel like I often feel so blessed that I get to serve this population because they are just incredible and they inspire me. And people always say like there's no profit in nonprofit, but like even if this was not my full-time job, I can say that I have gained more from running this nonprofit and building with these kids, these thought leaders, these just phenomenal beings, people who have seen all types of adversity and they continue to put a smile on their face and push forward. There's no one else that I'd rather be around, So I've learned so much from them. I gained so much from being in their presence. And I just hope that they get from me and from the organization what they've been able to give me and everyone else who's involved. You've come out to volunteer with us. So you've seen how they transform your mood and everything.
Yeah, one thing I think is dope is that, since you started, it's 8 years in that you've been doing this, and during your galas when we were outside, you'll have an alumni. You would probably call them an alumni, a kid that was there in 2012, 2013, and now they're a young adult, they're 20, 21.
Yeah.
And can you tell like the impact now, like when you talk to them in their 2021 and now they want to give back? How's that make you feel in the conversations that you have with them?
Honestly, I think that they would have that desire to give back regardless. I just think for anyone who was given a chance, an opportunity, support, you never forget that one person or that one organization. And so I think for anyone who has been given, we have that responsibility to give back, So I think for a lot of the kids we work with, they understand the challenge. And so when they're able to come out of that situation, the first thing they're thinking about is like, how do I support those people? Because I understand what their needs are more than anyone. So I'm so grateful for those kids that come back. I think the biggest impact that we have is in teaching them coping skills that they continue to use now. Like journaling is something that our kids resist. And it's really hard to get them to open up and share their feelings and do like their first writing entry in the journal. But there are so many kids that are, they'll come back and request new journals and say that they have filled out their full 200-page journal in like 3 months. I'm like, how often are you writing? But it's incredible because the kids who age out of the system or, come back and volunteer always say like, this is something I still do. And when I'm angry, I still do this. So I fell in love with reading. I fell in love with writing through the program, or I fell in love with meditation. So just being able to introduce a practice that is something they can carry with them for the rest of their years is like the coolest part of it for me.
Yeah. What's dope is that what people don't know about you is like, you're shy, you're an introvert, but, when you're in the room, you're like, whoa. Like your presence is felt.
So shy. Oh my God. Like the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm friends with you. Like people never, I don't know, they think I'm exaggerating or I'm lying, whatever. Like I don't like it. I get so nervous. I'm such an introvert and I don't know, it just makes me feel uncomfortable being on camera. But it's part of the job, and I think I've just learned to show up. And anytime I can be behind the scenes, I am. Like I'll run behind and be like, "No, you go talk, you go do the interview." So yeah.
So how does it help? Like you got a lot of celebrities and major influencers that help you with Precious Dreams. How did you get them? To continue, because everyone, friends help you in the beginning and then, they drift off, but they help you with continuing trying to push the Precious Dreams. How they're still involved? Can you talk about that?
I think it's bigger than me, and I'll always say that to you, Edgar, but I think that I'm so blessed to be surrounded by people who really just have the biggest hearts in the world. Like sometimes when you have a nonprofit and other people are not as passionate about your cause, they're giving because they want to support you. But I think we've created something that like pulls at the heartstrings of everyone, when they get involved and they see what we're doing. And so, yes, I think a lot of people give because we're friends or, because we have great relationships. But I think at the end of the day, people love the work. And people really care about the kids. And so that's why they want to support. The other day we did something for Giving Tuesday, and Luke James, who's actor, singer, came out and volunteered in Atlanta, and he sent me a text. I was like saying, thank you for everything. Like, thank you for volunteering. Luke has been involved since 2012. Like he came to the very first fundraiser. And I just was like, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. And he texted me back and said, I'm honored to do this work and I'm proud to be your friend. And I like almost cried reading that because, giving back just feels so good for people, and like to provide a space where my friends in entertainment and different people can come back and feel their impact in the community and connect with people that they normally wouldn't have the opportunity to. It does something for them as well. So I think a little bit of it is because of me, but I think it's mostly because I'm just surrounded by some really generous, beautiful people.
What's dope is that, you started in New York and now you're in LA, South Florida, Chicago. How do you build chapters in cities like that?
So we got the first request for a chapter in Fort Lauderdale.
What's the process?
So we didn't have one. So Oprah magazine like dropped an article, and then someone in Fort Lauderdale wanted to start a chapter. And I read the email and I just kind of tucked it away. And then she was so aggressive, and she kept emailing like, "Let me know what I need to do. What are the steps? How do I set it up?" And I went back to the board, and we decided that it's something that we should do. We're really lucky. So our chapter leads do not get paid. They are volunteers. And so what we've done is created a chapter manual, which has all of the guidelines of here's everything you need to know in order to start the chapter. Our chapter leads are in charge of fundraising for their own city's efforts. So they have to be willing to fundraise, to advocate, to assemble comfort bags, to make deliveries. They're setting everything up on their own. And then here in New York at the headquarters, we're kind of hand-holding through the whole process. So we look for people who are extremely driven, hardworking, and have time. And then we train them. The training process is anywhere from like 2 to 3 weeks. And then we work with them throughout the year to set up the schedule and create the partnerships and make sure that we're all kind of serving under the same guidelines.
And what's the 2021? Do you think you're going to open up more chapters?
Yeah, so 2021, I just wrote this out the other day. So Atlanta, San Francisco, and Houston. Houston was on our list for this year, Houston and Washington, D.C., but because of the pandemic, Houston got canceled, but we were still able to open Washington, D.C., so we pushed Houston next year. And my biggest goal, which I've never told, I haven't told anyone yet, but we will be serving in every state by 2022. So I'm telling you now, that is my promise to you and all the kids that we will be serving everywhere in 2022.
How does that make you feel? And how much pressure is that on you?
It's a lot of pressure, but it makes me feel so proud because I don't want to run this nonprofit forever. I want this nonprofit to continue on forever. And I think, my goal before I can step away from Precious Dreams is to get it on that national level where we're serving in every state. And once we do that, I will be extremely proud. And then I can move on to what's next for me.
Doug, can you talk about, and obviously this was a tough year for everybody. How hard was it to raise the money that you wanted to raise in 2020?
You know what? It wasn't difficult to fundraise this year. It's just we had to change plans. We had to quickly pivot the way that we fundraise. So, we typically do an annual gala in person. We had to do a virtual event. And I didn't want to cut corners just because we were doing everything virtually. So I hired production support to make sure that we could have like amazing production, which we were able to. I mean, it looked like a TV show the way we did the ball. And we did a lot of virtual events throughout the year. We had yoga classes and just different things that supported the donors, but at the same time gave them reasons to engage and support us. And then we really tapped into corporate dollars this year because with everything that was happening around Black Lives Matter, corporations were put under a lot of pressure to start giving back, not just to nonprofits, but grassroots organizations and leaders that were working on a local level in the places, the towns, and the cities that their employees work in, because everybody wants to know that their employer cares about the same causes. So this year we were really able to tap into those corporations and pitch our work and get support. And it's actually been beneficial for us to be Black founded, to be an organization that's led by women. So
that's dope. So now let's talk about you becoming an author. And how did that come about?
You're so funny. I've always been a writer. I've always been writing. It is the way that I cope with everything on a daily basis through journaling. And as a super empath, as someone who feels everything, when I would leave the kids, I had to write out what was happening, what I witnessed, what I was told, so that I could get to sleep at night. And there were so many issues that were going under the like left under the radar. I would see the psychiatrist when I went to visit the kids. I would see the social workers on site, but the kids weren't being vulnerable enough or open enough with them to tell them some of the serious issues they were dealing with. And so I just started thinking, like, how do we create something where the kid who might be afraid to share what's really going on can still get the advice that they need? And I just started thinking about writing a book. And I was like, maybe if I do a book with 20 something chapters, every chapter touches on a different form of adversity. I can tell them some of the stories that were shared at our comfort drops, and I can share with them some of the professional advice we've been given, and kind of steer them in the right direction and empower them to learn how to self-comfort. So the inspiration was simply to help more kids, but it came from me self-comforting and just writing what was going on and some of the challenges that the kids were facing.
So Everything a Band-Aid Can't Fix is a New York Times bestseller.
It's not a New York Times.
That's what I'm going to say.
You're so great at this.
Fake news, that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Okay.
So what made you come up with the name?
Everything a Band-Aid Can't Fix, because I thought about how we cover up our issues, and how we act like everything is okay. And that's one of the things, they like with younger kids, you can usually see their emotions. It's harder for them to hide what's going on. And I think with time, we learn how to hide better. And teenagers will 9 times out of 10 say, I'm good. No, I'm fine. Even when they're not good, and even when things are not okay. And for me, it's using a Band-Aid when we're pretending like everything is all right, when there's so much trauma and turmoil and just different things that we're not working through. And so I just thought about the Band-Aid, and then Everything a Band-Aid Can't Fix ended up being exactly what the book is about. Those issues that you can't just push under the table.
You got some star power in the book. ASAP Ferg, Gary Vee, yourself.
People with big hearts, people who simply want their stories shared so that they can empower and inspire more people. And I've just kind of been the messenger through it all. I've been really lucky to have those relationships and be able to get those people to open up and share their stories through me and through my work.
What I thought it was dope is you're persistent. You're like, we're both the same kind because we're both from the Bronx. You're persistent, and one of the best things was you making phone calls, sending emails to get yourself in Barnes and Nobles.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk about how you made that happen? Because I was there.
It's that New York City mentality. Like, with every goal that I set for myself, and I set some pretty big ones, I just go after it. And there's a confidence that I exude when I am pitching to someone that will make other people think that it's bigger than it is, right? So when I was releasing the book, I pitched to one of the Barnes and Nobles in Brooklyn. And, I put a strong bio together, and I, listed out some of the people that were in the book, and I emailed and called and got turned away. And then I reached out to another Barnes and Noble, and then another Barnes and Noble, and everyone kept turning me away. So then I just tried a different approach. I called the Barnes and Noble on Fifth Avenue. And I said, hey, just curious, like, didn't even call them as an author, but I was like, just curious, what are the requirements to have a author talk or signing at the store? And the manager said, we try to bring in authors that are confident they can bring in 125 people. And I was like, okay, thank you. So I sent him my information. I was like, listen, born and raised in New York City, run this nonprofit in New York City, between family, friends, associates, coworkers, like I know I can bring in 125 people. So they gave me a chance, and that's where I had my book release.
But you have to bring in 125 people, but they also have to buy a book to make sure you don't lose any money.
But it's not that hard to do if you do it in whatever city you're from. You know, wherever you have community, your friends, your family, like that's the one time I called everybody and was like, listen, I need y'all to come out for me. I need y'all to be at Barnes and Noble on this day. So
were you nervous?
I'm sure I was. Yeah, I'm sure I was. I'm always nervous. Anytime I have to like speak or I don't know, I always get nervous, but
the book took you about 5 years to do, and now you're working on book number 2.
Yeah,
I am. About that?
And this is a children's book, so tapping into a whole different audience. And I'm actually with this book. So the first was a self-help book. This book is trying to break the stigma around mental health issues that are being taught in elementary schools. So I was not diagnosed until this year, 2020, with ADHD. I wasn't diagnosed until this year with ADHD. And it's something that I knew I had as a kid, and it's something that has challenged me for most of my life. And so I started writing about a little girl that has ADHD and how she could have advocated for herself in the classroom to get help, how she could have been more honest with her peers to let them know what her challenges were, and why the tapping was frustrating for her, or why someone moving around like distracted her, and why she couldn't remember what the teacher was saying. And I just started writing about it, and it turned into a children's story that is coming out in the spring. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be the first of many stories that advocate for kids who should use their voice to express their challenges, because when you do, you find out that there are so many other people that have things in common with you, and then you feel like it's okay.
So what's the overall goal? What do you see Precious Dreams in 3 to 5 years? I know you say you want to, eventually, what's your legacy? What do you think?
Building a sustainable organization that's serving on a national scale and supporting youth as they enter and exit care. So this year, we actually partnered with an organization called Brooklyn Combine to create a scholarship in cohort for youth that are aging out of foster care, or 18 to 21 and leaving the homeless shelter system, to support them as they start a business or go to school, and helping them by growing their network, providing accountability partners, mentorships, free workshops, and just working with them to make sure they pursue those dreams. So that's something that I'm really excited about. And it was inspired by a friend of ours, Jason Humble, who was on the board of Precious Dreams. So it's called the Humble Dreams Initiative. And it's something that I think he should be very proud of, because I'm always thinking about legacy work, and anytime I talk with him, I'm like, come on, Jason, we got to think big. We got to think legacy work here. So yeah, the Humble Dreams is something that when my time is up, I hope will also be helping kids nationally who need to exit, who need support, during those sometimes the most challenging years for them.
So you could talk about like the people that's on your board. How have they become, obviously those are people you have to report to and stuff like that, but the togetherness of your group, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I am very lucky to have a board of directors that gets along, but we have a very diverse board, and it's all people who really care about the cause. The trick to growing the board, I was actually taught this by our board president, and he said, find 4 people that work in different industries, 4 people who are not friends with each other, and then ask each of those people to recommend someone who doesn't work in their industry. and bring them in for an interview. And so every year, one of our board members recommends someone else to join, and they get interviewed by the board. And then only if they're a good fit, we will invite them to the board, because we really have become a family at this point. But it's just beautiful how diverse everyone is. And we have board members all over the United States, and everyone, whether they have been somehow directly impacted by the foster care system or been homeless at some point, they are ready and willing to do anything to see this organization thrive. And I'm really lucky.
So like I said in the beginning, like we first met, I think it's 2014, because that's when we started Paddle the Sex.
Doing a fundraiser together.
Yeah.
We literally planned the fundraiser without like meeting in person, and then met at the fundraiser.
Yeah, which was hilarious. But like Chris Jean, I remember Chris was like, she's dope. She's making things happen. And I was like, Precious Dreams. Then he told me what it was about. I was like, yo, let's do it. He was like, you'll meet her. He kept saying I was going to meet you. And then I was like, I'll meet her the day of the event. And, we've supported twice. I wish we could have gave a lot more, but, we still got time. And hopefully, like, when Outdoors opens up again, we could get it together. And
I just want to say, like, shout out to you guys, because you guys have been doing events. We do events all the time. Well, we used to do events before the pandemic. But you guys were creating all of these experiences for people to come out and have a good time. And you didn't have to incorporate, you didn't have to involve a charity or create some type of charitable component to the event. But you guys chose to do that, and you chose to, not take a full profit and decide to split with a nonprofit and give back. And so I'm so grateful. And that's another reason why I'm surrounded by people with big hearts and just generous souls. Like you and Chris really helps the nonprofit. And it's not just about donations. When you decide to share your platform with another nonprofit, you are showcasing that work to your full network. So there were so many people that were introduced to Precious Dreams for the first time through Heart to Guard, and for that I am forever grateful. So thank you.
Hopefully in 2021 we could get it done together, because we need Outdoors to make it happen.
Yeah.
So the goal is, how do people donate? How do people get in contact with you? And we can take it from there.
So people can donate at preciousdreamsfoundation.org. They can follow us on social, Precious Dreams Foundation. I'm at Nicole Russell, which is right here. And then also, I forgot to say shout out to Sharice too, because Sharice
definitely makes things happen.
Yeah. All good people.
So Nicole, appreciate your time. Stay on after here. Please support Precious Dreams Foundation. It's one of the best organizations I personally know. Nicole Russell is fantastic. And like I said, she's a superhero. And Nicole, thank you.
Thank you so much, Edgar.